Good morning. It's about 6:45 or so in the morning. Sun's trying to come out. A little overcast today, but still really pretty. And I was just writing in my book about, all the great things that happened yesterday, my magic book that I do every single morning to design the atmosphere of my day. And it just struck me how much my life has changed since I started implementing this practice, and how important and valuable thoughts are, that we design our thoughts, I suppose, for the day and curate our thoughts to really get the life of our dreams. And in my experience, I went from having $0 income, living in my dad's basement, and this is like 5 years ago, and waking up with anxiety, probably 10 or 15 years long suffering with anxiety, coming out of depression, having been on, it's not Lexapro, but that other one that's a depression pill. I can't remember what it's called right now for some reason, which tells me how separate I am from that time in my life. And, really low self-esteem, eating disorders, low self-confidence, all of that, to where I am now, where I have an amazing friend group. I get to go to my amazing job that I love with my amazing boss, my amazing team, truly. My peers are amazing. I make, $20,000 or more a month. I have this channel where I can talk to you. I don't have an eating disorder. I've been doing carnivore for 4 years. I have an amazing friend group. I'm so blessed. And this is sort of how I think I have gotten there. It really has so much to do with curating the thoughts in our life and what we notice. And I think as a default in society, most people, and I'm one of these people that used to do this, you just pay attention to what you get. If we're to think about our lives as kind of our lives, if you want to think about it, kind of meta way, is in a sense, sort of like a YouTube subscription feed, or even an Instagram page where there's just content coming in all the time, every single day. And by default, we just consume it because that's what's there, it's what's available. But very similar to Instagram and YouTube, you can kind of select what to subscribe to or what to follow. And that will literally design the information that you see. And it wasn't until I started doing that I really started to see my life turn out in ways that made me not only money, right, but I'm healthy and I have great friendships and all of that. And it comes with, I think, truly picking what we choose to notice and what we choose to think about, which can be easier said than done. But there's a way to do it where this is what I talk about a lot, is I write in my magic book every single morning everything good that happened yesterday. So if we're to take this seriously, I think this kind of stuff can sound really woo-woo and really pie in the sky, okay, Lauren, let's talk about thoughts and frequencies and all that kind of stuff. However, with the new science that's coming out about quantum physics, this stuff is actually now being taken very seriously, because people are recognizing that literally physicists, top physicists, are recognizing how the thoughts you think create the reality around you, and therefore create your life. And they're showing this with how molecular structures work. They test it against what people's, I wouldn't say their vision is, but their perception of things, and how that literally transforms the molecule and renders it. So many crazy things coming out about quantum. And what that means for us is, if we subscribe, for me, when I was subscribing to information in my day-to-day, paying attention to the drama that other people had and talking about it, and paying attention to the stupid reality TV shows that only talk about drama, or show who's fighting with who, or who's trying to steal whose boyfriend, and stuff like that, or really just watching the news a lot, right? By paying attention to that, by giving my attention to that, I'm essentially subscribing to that information. And as a result, my mind was filled with information about that stuff. And because my mind was filled with information about that stuff, that information and that kind of the general energy, or the tone that information had to offer, became my emotional set point. And that's then what dictated my life. what we tend to subscribe to on YouTube and on Instagram, the algorithm tends to feed us more. So it's really pretty meta if you think about it. Like, if you subscribe to my channel and I talk about this kind of stuff, frequencies, the power of thought, you get what you pay attention to, there's likely going to be somebody else recommended to you that Instagram or YouTube is going to feed to you. You're not really going to see a lot of other, like, there's so many other topics of information out there, but the algorithm feeds us what we're already paying attention to, because that's what the system thinks that we're going to like. It's the same with our minds, where what we give our attention to, our minds tend to notice more of, and it keeps coming to us. So, I had to really pay attention to that and learn that. At some point in my life, I had to look around and be like, damn, I'm really struggling with food. I'm like binge eating, yo-yo dieting. I have friends around me that are like good people, but for some reason they're not super loyal friends. Like, I didn't have money, I didn't have confidence, and at the end of the day, I had to realize that, like, while I was doing my best, it ultimately was like my fault. Because when I stepped back, I took a look at like what I was consuming and what I was talking about. And literally all I was consuming and what I was talking about was my problems. Like, I would talk about my problems to other friends because I was, obviously hurt or consumed by them. But I was also like constantly putting myself in environments that just weren't serving my highest potential, maybe, with people who, again, really good people. I'm not saying I'm saying this like very humbly, not saying I was better than them, but they talked about things that were like reality TV kind of things, whose drama is who's talking about whose boyfriend did what, like things that I kind of knew internally wasn't inspiring to me, but because I was just putting up with it, because that's who my friends, like, that's what they talked about. That's what they did. And it wasn't until I actively put myself in a different environment with like the true intention of subscribing to new information that the whole game changed. I moved to a new city and I started listening to podcasts that were uplifting. I started listening every single morning to information that was quite literally soothing and uplifting and reminding me that we all really do create our realities. I started paying attention to and subscribing to channels that talked about human potential and how powerful humans are, and started watching that stuff. I started reading more. I started listening. Like, the music that we listen to in society, it is so powerful. I think it was Snoop Dogg that said he stopped writing about death and murder because he realized that what he was writing about was coming true. It's like crazy. It's true. Like, what you subscribe to eventually becomes your reality. So like, if Snoop Dogg's talking about death and gangs and murder and shooting and all that kind of stuff, like, writing that into reality, he realized that was actually what became his reality, and he stopped. I had to do the same thing. I had to stop talking about the drama and start talking, like, honestly, what I didn't want to have happen, I stopped feeding energy completely. And what I wanted to have happen, I started to give energy to. So I would notice, there's so many amazing things to notice. Like, even just looking behind me, like, how insane is this view? There's so many beautiful things to notice without sounding cheesy, but like, so many other things to subscribe to. The birds. You might not be able to see it, but there's like dozens of birds back here, just like all hanging out there in the field. I'm surrounded by like beautiful nature and just an absolutely stunning skyline. Like, I have coffee with me. It's warm. I'm pretty healthy, all things considered. I get to talk to you. I had a great night's sleep. Like, it's those little things that I think I used to forget to pay attention to that actually are the big things. And it's stuff you hear, like, this isn't new information. You hear, at least I've always heard, and whenever you watch like YouTube videos of older people, like, the wisdom is always kind of like, the journey is the experience, and notice the little things and all that. And I really think it's true, because the more I've noticed the little things in my life that are working out well, that are good, and I stop subscribing to and giving energy to and giving talking space to and thinking space to the things that just feel bad to talk about, to think about, the better my life gets. It's just like a subscription feed. It's just like if you go on YouTube right now, you see something that makes you feel bad, like a channel that you're watching, you're just going to unsubscribe to it. And that is quite literally an example of just taking your energy away from it and not giving it airtime, not noticing it. And as a result, it doesn't show up in your feed anymore. It literally tells the algorithm to stop feeding you that information. When I started to do that myself with topics and literally YouTube channels and music, and I instead started filling my mind in the start of the morning every single day with things that make me feel great and uplifted, and really start to notice the beautiful things in life, the little things, those started to become more and more frequent and more often. And I think as a result, that's I'm healthy. I'm happy. I make $20,000 plus a month. I have amazing friendships, an amazing career. Again, all of this I say so humbly, not because I'm trying to brag. I'm not even talked about this stuff because I don't want to brag or make it sound like I'm talking about myself a lot. It's really that I think I've figured out over the last 5 years one of life's hacks, and this is it. And I do think that regardless of what we eat, whether it's carnivore, which I eat, or meat-based or vegetarian or plant-based, I truly think our thoughts create our reality. Even more than that has to do with you meet people who are, God, my dad's a great example. My dad's had ultra-processed foods pretty much his whole life. He's 81, and I have never met a man who looks healthier and happier and lives his life to the fullest than he does. And I know through observing him why that is. He lets things go, and he only gives attention to things that make him feel good. I've literally watched him. He's never told me that. I just observed him, and that's how he moves through life. Conversely, and I want to say this with so much love, my mom was my best friend. She was probably the best person in the entire world. She had the biggest heart in the world, but that was almost her kryptonite because she had such a big heart. She also would give sad things and things that made her feel bad a lot of attention, and she felt very deeply, and she didn't understand maybe how to not give those things attention, rather give things that curate love feelings and abundance feelings and all that. She didn't know how to pick. And I think because of that, her feelings, what she noticed, the sad things dragged her down, and she became an alcoholic and ended up taking her life. Now, again, she's kind of the hero of my story because she was so much love. She was so beautiful and had so much to give that I'm so grateful for her. And still I'm by comparison, my dad and my mom, I can see why my dad is healthier than my mom and has lived so much longer. He's 81, looks amazing. His thoughts, what he chooses to subscribe to, is truly what dictates his life, and then the frequency he carries throughout the day, and then what comes to him. So here's the sun. It's gorgeous. Okay. That was what was on my mind this morning. I hope you have a great day. I'm going to start doing these live streams, I think, where I will invite you to join me in the morning to do Magic Book. And if you're into that, please comment below, Magic Book. I'm going to send you the link personally and probably some more details on the time for when we'll get that cracking. And I hope you have a great day. I hope you're happy. See you on the next one.